Well, hello. This is Glenn from Lights On Multimedia Mind Arts, and I thought I would continue with the theme of tessellations. There's another direction we can go, but before we do that, I'd like to show you the reason why that we saved this as a symbol in the previous tutorial. And let's say that we look at this and we go, oh, we'd like to have maybe some more detail in the elf's ear. And so you can see these little triangles that open and close. If I click on this, you can see that it selects the entire top row. This is kind of reverse. This is the top, and it goes down to the bottom. And so maybe I want to, it doesn't really make any difference, I suppose, which one of these we work on, but just to kind of keep ourselves thinking straight, I really want to do the changes on this one. Okay, so I will open that row up, and just like the rows, if I go down to the bottom one here and click on that, then you can see that it selects this, and I can zoom in on that. But if I double click on the little icon, it automatically zooms in to the max of the screen, so I can see that easily. Makes it easier when you're hunting for parts in a very complex composition. And if you can find it in this list, you don't have to try to dig it out inside the image itself. Okay, so I'm going to take my pen tool, and I'm going to draw a line here which kind of represents the inside of the ear. Pull this around. Whoops, don't want to do that. I want to simply reposition it like that. And maybe bend this out a little bit like this. Now, this is not, there's a little piece of the ear here called the tragus. There's the tragus and the antitragus. We won't need to get into anatomy so much here, but I can't move this. I like the fact that there's no line there, but I can't move it. If I try to click on it, it doesn't do anything. So, but if I complete curve, now I've got something to work with, but now I don't like the look of that. So I'm going to click on this. I'm going to break the curve. And now I've got, actually I want to turn this into a sharp. And now I can sort of pull this up in an imitation of the tragus of the ear. Round this off a little bit. Now I've got this in the wrong spot because you can see it's not being repeated over here. So I'm going to pull this down into here, and you can see now that it's echoing. So if we go to here, we go zoom out into our large full version, and you can see that all the ears now have the additions that we've made to them, the details. Well, we've worked with a square so far. In making a tessellation, there would be no reason why a rectangle would be any different. But let's try something more complicated, a little more complex shape. A polygon, which means simply a many-sided shape. And if I use the polygon tool over here and drag out with the shift key down, there's a pentagon. Pentagon is not what I want to work with today. Let's try a six-sided shape, which is called a hexagon. It's the same shape that you see repeated over and over and over again in a honeycomb. So we know that tessellates simply by looking at nature. Can we make this more interesting, a little more, maybe a little more unexpected? So I'm going to change this to click on this and convert it to curves. And then I'm going to click on my node tool, and I'm just going to start pulling on some things here and see if we can tessellate this. It's always fun to experiment with this. You can get an idea and you can test it, and if it works, fine. If it doesn't work, well, then what would you have to do then to change the shape to make it so it would tessellate? So this is kind of like an open book. You can imagine a page being here and a page being here. And let's try to tessellate that. So I'm going to just do Command J to duplicate it. Go to my tool up there for moving tool. And nah, that's not going to tessellate, right? So what would we have to do to this shape to make it fit? Well, here's where our symbol function inside of Affinity Designer works so well. I'm going to click on Create. So we have a symbol down here. And then when we create a duplicate, or we can drag from here if we want. So we can kind of go in here. And I'm going to reduce the opacity. I'm going to open this up and click on that. So we want to work on the curve. And if I reduce the opacity to 50%, we can kind of see through. I'm going to zoom in a little better. And I'm going to move this, just one of these, not all of them. I want to move this one down. I want this to touch this vertex to touch right here. Okay, that's good. Now I want to make this so maybe it fits in there. I click over here, make sure I'm on this, and I pull down, and you see the other shape changes correspondingly. And you want to zoom in pretty closely to make sure you get this right. The more complicated the shapes get, the more precise you have to be. Okay, is that going to work? I don't know. Let's try it. Let's see if we add. Yeah, it's still not quite right. What happens if we rotate this? Oh, look at that. So rotation can be a part of tessellations as well. Okay, and I think we can go back to our 100% opacity. And I still want to tuck this in a little bit better than this. All right, so let's continue to repeat and fill this up. This is a bigger shape so that we can fill this in more quickly. Not going to work. Fill it in like this. And it's like, very much like putting a puzzle together. You begin to, your eyes begin to see where things fit, which is a good skill to have in life, right? Where do things fit? So you can see this is not turning into something made out of columns and rows, but something a little more irregular in a regular way. All right, tuck that in like that. I have to rotate this completely around. Like that. Turn this so you always have to be when you zoom in, you may notice other places that you need to tuck things in a little bit better. At some point there is a pattern in here where you could begin to group them, and there is enough of a pattern here where you could, so Okay, so as you can see by the grid still visible through the red of the squares, that we have hanging out over the edge. Well, it would be nice to have a better idea of what this really did look like. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of these, and I'm going to make them into a grid doing Command or Control G, or not grid but group, Command or Control G. And then for the moment I'm going to hide those, and I'm going to make a rectangle the same size as my document. Now watch the numbers down in the lower right hand corner when it says 4096 by 2304. That should be the size of my desktop. I'm going to go to fill, and then now it's not filled. Put this on the, drag this to the bottom. Then I'm going to clip this inside this other one here. And I like doing Option or Command, Option, Command G, or the Windows version, which is Option Control G. And there it is, it's inside. And if I turn off, we don't need to see the grid now. Turn off the grid, and there's our pattern. But let's make this even more interesting. Let's open this up, and we can pick any of these. Let's pick this one here. I'm going to open it up, go to curves. I'm going to double click on that. When you double click, it zooms right in. So here you can see where if there's any mistakes, you can fix those. Okay, back to here. We want to be inside of that. And so let's take our pen tool and start drawing other shapes inside. Okay, and then we can change the fill colors to maybe a little darker, and then push escape, and then do another shape. Let's go from here to here. Actually, I'm outside of, I'm trying to make sure I'm within. Okay. So from here to here to here to here. And then change the color or whatever. Make this more of an orange color. It's this shape is not completed, so I'm going to modify this a little bit, making sure that's inside, and then I can complete so I'm having a line there. So now as we back out, this is starting to look a little more interesting, right? And we could add other, we go back into this area, we can add other primitive shapes. We can put what should we do? Let's put a trapezoid inside it. No, trapezoid. And we want to move this to the top so we can see it. And maybe something like that. It's our yellow shape. Okay, so now we're getting a lot more complicated, a lot more complex. And if we want to put things over here, our fundamental shape is still pretty large. So we zoom in, and we can put something over here. Just because that's my sense of balance, says there needs to be something over there. Maybe I'll go back to the pen tool. And I don't want to select that. I want to be on this one. Pen tool. Pen tool. Close it up. And whatever your sense of design is. All right. I think you get the idea. I thank you for watching, and there are more tessellations we'll explore soon. Bye.